Well. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, January the 31st, 2025, 7:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. The last day of January. Are you over the Christmas hangover? Are you over the holiday hangover? You better be by now. We're rolling right into February. Before you know it, it's going to be Valentine's Day. Then before you know it, it's going to be, spring break, and then Easter, and then the summer, and then the fall, and then Christmas again, and then it'll be January 31st again before you know it. Stu is alive, or is he? Is he alive? Should we get excited, Scream fans, ghost heads? They're rejoicing in the streets, they're having parades, they're dancing naked, waving their pants over their heads, screaming, I am a banshee, I am a banshee, I am a banshee. That's what they're doing. They're driving with their car, in their cars with their windows down, going, oh, Stu! That's what they're doing, folks. That's what they're doing. They are. The world gave a collective cheer. Even the Pope was getting in on this. The Pope made a statement. Donald Trump signed another executive order. The whales were spraying their spray much more romantically and beautiful than they've ever done before. And in the spray, you could see the name Stu. It was such a rejoice. The Vatican just took the day off today. Absolutely incredible stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing. Matthew Lillard. And he's not the only one. Of course. Scott Foley has been announced to come back, the killer in Scream 3. If you have, spoiler alert, sorry. If you haven't seen it, you're in no rush. He's 25 years old now. He's returning, and he was shot in the head, and he's coming back. And there's rumors going around now that even Skeet Billy could be coming back. Now, that would be no surprise, really, because he was in Scream 5 and 6, but not alive. So fascinating news. I've talked a bit about this on the channel before. It's no secret that I don't think that it's necessary to bring Stu back at all. I actually like the idea of him remaining dead. And I'll give you my thoughts on all that, in a second, just to kind of quick recap and all that. But let's go over to the other screen and just kind of get the news out of the way and see what is going down. This was first reported to us from Deadline. Matthew Lillard is coming back for Scream 7. Matthew Lillard, who played Macker in the first 1996 Scream movie, is returning to the franchise for Spyglass Paramount's Scream 7. How is this possible? We'll see. Does Stu have a twin? Doesn't look like it from Lillard's Instagram post. Ooh, and that was I like the way that he revealed that. That was good. That's smart. It's fun. I think that's much better than just kind of, an announcement. I think that's fun. Last we saw the horror movie Obsessed Stu. He was chasing Neve Campbell's Sydney down 29 years ago, attempting to kill her. However, she had the upper hand, dropping a TV on his head. It's true. Also, you'll remember that Billy and Stu began stabbing each other to make themselves look like the victims, just moments before Sydney kicked their asses. Scream launched Lillard's career out of a cannon, with the actor continuing on to star in the Scooby-Doo live-action franchise, She's All That, the Descendants, and even a key role in the Blumhouse Universal hit Five Nights at Freddy's. I actually quite like him in a little movie that he did with Josh Hartnett in 2005 and Rose Byrne called Wicker Park. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Wicker Park, but I quite enjoyed that movie quite a bit. So, and then it just goes on to talk about, blah, 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 blah. We don't know what his role is. And, but what is his role? What could be his role? The internet is speculating like it's nobody's business, ladies and gentlemen. I want to hear from you today on the show. I want to hear from you. If you want to make sure that I read your comment or your statement, you have to send in a super chat, because obviously those do take priority for obvious reasons. You don't have to, of course. I do read non-super chats as well, but I can't guarantee that I will get them or get to them because of time. But nonetheless. Oh, and if you're not subscribe and hit the notification bell and the thumbs up button and, order a cheeseburger and all that kind of stuff. So what do I think? Well, it's no secret that I quite enjoy the first Scream. That's my favorite of the series. I do agree with those that say, Scream has yet to have, a Freddy's Dead. Has yet to have a resurrection, right? A Halloween, resurrection. A Jason Goes to Hell. It is true that it is pretty consistent. And if Scream 3 is your worst in the franchise, if that's your worst in the franchise, which the general consensus is that is the case, if that is the worst, and I know that's a matter, but if it is the worst, you're doing pretty good. Even if 5 is the worst, even if you think 6 is the worst, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good, right? So, it's not bad. It's not bad. The thing, though, for me, and, I'm not a diehard Scream. I mean, that's, but I, enjoy it. The thing for me, though, is that the Scream movies just kind of seem like, there's the first one, which was the perfect example of what that movie was going to be. It's kind of like how I feel about Stranger Things. I really like each season. Some more than others, right? I do. But my favorite is the first season of Stranger Things, because I think it is the perfect example of what Stranger Things was supposed to be all about. Kids riding their bikes, the 80s, Spielberg and fucking He-Man and E.T. and all that. And as the kids get older, and of course, because there's such a delay, now we got fucking 30-year-olds playing 15-year-olds and, not actually, they're in their early 20s, but still, you know what I'm saying? So, the suspension of disbelief kind of like, Anyways, I'm not here to talk about that. But I kind of feel the same way, where it's like, I think that first season is just, and as a kid who grew up through the 80s, I'm like, yes, With Scream, I'm like, Scream, yes, whodunit, it's beginning, middle, and end, and we got all that, it's great, and Scream 2, I thought was okay. Scream 3 was okay. Scream 4 was another Scream movie. Scream 5 was another Scream movie. Scream 6 was another Scream movie. It didn't really move the needle for me. It didn't, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but it didn't really move the needle for me. I've wanted the Scream franchise, and this is no secret. If you followed me for any length of time, you know this. I have wanted the Scream franchise to take a risk, not a risk that is, an arbitrary risk or some wild, crazy avant-garde risk, but something that keeps the DNA there, still feels like a Scream movie, still looks like a Scream movie, still plays out like a Scream movie, but there's something that happens where you go, and it's been no secret. I wanted them to do this with Scream 5. They didn't. I wanted them to do this with Scream 6. They didn't, which was a cliffhanger ending. I wanted a cliffhanger ending because we haven't seen that. Each movie is a whodunit. Each movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Although every movie is connected through one big universe, each movie does end, right? You know what I mean? Like the killer ends up dying and it's all wrapped up, and you have your Scooby-Doo moment where the killer tells you for 5 minutes why they're so evil, and then and something happens and they're dead, and that's it. There's never been a cliffhanger that carries over, like a story that carries over, you know what I'm saying? And I would have loved it, if Scream 5 or 6 ended where it's like this low angle shot, you see Ghostface wipes the blood off the knife, and you don't know who it is, right? And maybe Sarah and is it Sarah? Yeah, Sarah and Tara? No. Sam and Tara. They're on the ground like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, oh my God, it's Ghostface. Oh my God, and it's cuts, and then it cuts to black, and you're like, whoa, we're not used to that. That's weird. That's strange. Oh my God, they're carrying this over. Oh, who is it? And then you spend the next fucking 2 years fighting in fan forums and online and on these shows going, who do you think it is? I don't know. Who do you think? I think it's what if it's, I mean, just would have been amazing. Would have been amazing. They haven't done that. They haven't done that. And I thought that would have been cool. It's something that Scream has never had, right? A cliffhanger ending where you're just like, oh my God, who is it? I don't know. You got to wait 2 years. Have fun fucking debating this back and forth. That would have been amazing. And maybe they'll do that with 7. I don't know. But they didn't do it with 5. And they didn't do it with 6. And I was like, So for me, I don't think Scream 5 and 6 are bad. 5 was very safe, and I think it was like it was kind of like The Force Awakens, right? And they needed to do that with 5 because Wes Craven had died, and they needed, Radio Silence needed to prove themselves, and hey, it's okay, we got this. We could, I know Wes is gone, but we're going to deliver a Scream movie, and that's what they did. They delivered a Scream movie. Now they did take a little bit of a risk in there and getting, Dewey, right? But it was, it was all right. It was a Scream movie, but it didn't reinvent the wheel. It was just kind of a Scream movie. 6, although it took place in New York, Montreal, it was good. It was fine. It was fun. It was a Scream movie. One thing I will say, though, and maybe it's because I'm not a big Scream huge head here, is that although who doesn't love Neve Campbell, right? One of the greatest final girls of all time, great Canadian gal, not lives now, but is from Guelph, Ontario, Canada, which is only about, an hour away from me. I've been to Guelph many times, beautiful little city. I love Neve Campbell. Who doesn't love Neve Campbell? But I have to admit, although it was great to see her in 5, I didn't miss her until we saw her. And I have to admit, I didn't miss her in 6. I actually thought they did a really good job of the casting and building a story around these new characters that it felt Sydney's story was complete. I felt good. Everybody's dead. She's gone. They're dead. She's married to kids. It's good. It's fine. We don't need her. But yeah, here we are. And so here we are, and Stu, and I felt the same way about Matthew Lillard. Yeah, but never saw the TV on his head. You don't know if he's dead. It's like, I know. But do you want to take the risk? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to take the risk? I was talking earlier today with Darren from the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast, and he was saying to me that, he's got some confidence. That doesn't mean that the film's going to be good because he's not quite sure how Kevin Williamson is going to be as a director. But as a writer, he feels that maybe Williamson is cooking up something pretty cool. They're bringing back this person, That was originally what they're going to do with 3, but then didn't do that 3 because everything happened with Columbine and he's thinking maybe this is going to... So he's got some confidence. I might be a little more skeptical maybe than Darren is, but I don't know. I just feel that something's got to give. Like, is this just going to be another Scream movie? Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean taking avant-garde risks. Like, okay, now let's do a Jason Goes to Hell. No, I don't mean that. Okay, I mean, there's like a big spectrum here, right? There's delivering the same kind of movie over and over again, and then there's leaping over 5,000 sharks and delivering Freddy's Dead. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of room in between, folks. There's a lot of room in between. So no, I don't mean doing something as drastic as that. I just mean like a cliffhanger. Who is it? I don't know. That might be kind of fun to carry over a story into 2 films. But when it comes to Matthew Lillard, I was okay with him being dead. I think it serves the story better. I think it's better that he's dead because the question now becomes, what is the motivation? Are you bringing him back because you have this great idea and this great story that is going to blow people away and it's going to knock the socks off of people, and Scream fans all over the world are going to be going, oh my God, whoa! Maybe it's Kevin Williamson, right? To Darren's point, it's Kevin Williamson. Maybe he's cooking up something. Let him cook. Let him cook. Maybe he's got something great. Maybe. But what is it? What is the motivation? Why are you bringing him back? Are you bringing him back because the debacle with Melissa Barrera and that whole thing, and then Neve Campbell, but now she's back, and then we gotta get asses in the seats because we're worried that nobody's gonna watch the movie? Is that why you're bringing him back? And then the motivation in the film narratively is okay, or is it? Oh my God! Oh, this is, yes, and then we do this, and then Hannah, I gotta write this down, and then we do this, and we bring it back, and then that's, but wouldn't you want to have left that for a surprise? Wouldn't you want to have not told anybody that he was coming back? If it was so like, wouldn't you want people in the theater to be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? My neighbors, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm yelling so loud, my neighbors. But you know what I'm saying? Like maybe, right? Or maybe in a trailer, you know, where it said, who are you? And he comes out of the shadows. Hello, Sydney. Oh! Fans everywhere people would be jizzing on their computer screens and guys would be running around chest bumping each other and doing, that's what you would get from these people, right? and it's but you reveal it just now. Now, maybe they did it because they thought, you know what, there's no way we're going to keep the lid on this thing. We haven't even started shooting the film yet. The movie doesn't come out for another year. I don't think they've started shooting. They're going to start shooting soon if they haven't. The movie doesn't come out for another year. There's no way we're going to be able to keep the lid on this thing. Let's just tell people now. Let's just tell people. We're not going to tell you, you know, the role. We're not going to tell you what he's doing or his role or how big or how small or anything like that. But there's just no way we can keep the lid on this. So let's get out in front of it, reveal it, and then it's out there, and we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about hiding your face on set. We don't have to worry about, you know, doing this as you're walking, you know, in front of the paparazzi. We don't have to worry about any of that. It's out there. You're there. They know you're there. Okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's what it is. But what is the role? What do you guys think it is that he's coming back for? I don't know. So let's go over a few scenarios. Okay. He's coming. It's Stu Macker. It's Macker, right? Yeah. He's coming back. It is just exactly at face value. Okay. So there's the face value version, which is he's alive. He's always been alive. He survived the television. And somehow Sydney never knew, and they kept it a secret. And Kevin Williamson has figured out some brilliant way to justify that nobody, that he wasn't on the news, that this never leaked, right? It never got out. He survived. And he's been locked up for years, and he's scarred, and he's making his return. And maybe he's been pulling some strings from Guantanamo. Or Alcatraz. He's been pulling some strings from Alcatraz. It's not even a prison anymore, I don't think. I'd love to go, though. That'd be really cool to visit. Al Capone. But he's pulling some strings, right? He's pulling some strings from prison. And he gets out. He escapes or he's released on parole or, you know, whatever. And, you know, like the face value, very linear, very predictable sort of. Yeah, he's just, it's Stu. You know what I mean? Like that. Oh my God. Oh, you know. Okay, so there's the face value one. Then there's hang on a sec. They're also bringing back Scott Foley. So if they're bringing back Scott Foley, and there's rumors that they're bringing back Skeet as well, right? Billy. And they're bringing back Stu. Okay, hang on a sec here. Scott, Stu, even though I'm not a big proponent of bringing Stu back, and I'm still not. I never have been. But I can see the argument that, well, the television fell on his head and technically you didn't see him. Okay, I get it. Even though that television would kill anybody. I understand. Like, I get it. And I get technically you did. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. But Roman, he was shot in the head. He was shot in the head. He was shot in the head. So maybe like Billy in Scream 5 and 6, this is going to be more of a psychological scenario, more of a dream flashback. It's not in present day. It's a flashback to a different time where you see all three of them alive. And maybe they do some de-aging and, whatever the case is, right? And that could be the situation here. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying, but that could be the situation. And I would lean less into that idea as a possibility if they didn't announce that Scott Foley was also coming back. But I'm like, well, hang on a sec. If Scott's coming back and Billy's coming back, and now is it possible that Scott can, that Roman can still be dead and Stu alive? Yes, of course. We don't know how they're handling it. But I sat back and I thought, well, that's a little interesting. And so we have the face value version where he's alive and he's just been locked up and he comes back and he's like, hello, Sydney, it's Stu, whatever, right? And then there's the, dream flashback sort of thing where he's not actually alive. He is dead. They're all dead. And we're seeing it through a flashback. Sydney's having some bad dreams or premonitions or I don't know. Somebody tells her a story and then we do the flashback cut sequence where it's kind of hazy on the outside of the frame and, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe that's it, right? Maybe that's it. So there's that scenario. There's another scenario where I think it's less likely because Melissa Barrera is not in this film. And with 5 and 6, of course, we see that she has her father very much in her. And obviously Billy's not alive. And Billy's not a Force ghost. He's not there. He's not actually, but this is psychologically, she's seeing and hearing her father. They're illustrating the influence that her father has on her and the stories that she's heard and told and or heard and found out about. They're illustrating that through seeing him, right? And it's a cool way of doing it. It's great for the fans. It's great for Skeet. Obviously, he gets a paycheck. He gets his Scream legacy continues. And that's a cool way to illustrate that for the audience. But he's not like literally there, right? It's not literally a ghost talking to her. It more is a psychological thing to show actually that she has deep-seated psychological issues, that she could make that choice to be like her father, which is why I actually do like the ending of Scream 6 where she makes the choice not to. She has his mask and she drops it on the ground and she walks off into the distance with Tara. And so really, at the end of the day, in my mind, I know Scream fans will argue this because they love Melissa Barrera, and I get it. And of course, you could continue. But in my mind, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's over. Her story's done. Like, she made the choice. She made the choice. If she had taken the mask with her, ooh, that's interesting. Symbolically, through the use of cinematic language, that's interesting. What does that mean? I'm not really sure. I feel like Jeff Goldblum. Yes. But what does it mean, right? And so, but she drops the mask and walks away. It's very clearly defined to me as an audience member that she's making the choice to leave her father and her and that past behind. But it's very clear in 5 and 6 that psychologically she could, you know what I mean, right? And so, but now that she's out of the picture, I mean, is Sydney going to suddenly be having these flashbacks in the same way? I mean, that wasn't communicated to us that was happening in Scream 2 or 3 or as far as I know, unless somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen them in a while, but I don't think I don't recall her character having these issues. So it might feel a little out of place and a little forced if all of a sudden she is having these issues, unless there's, what is the reason for it, right? Guilt, grief over, Dewey, I was going to say Stewie, over Dewey's death, whatever the case is. Maybe there's a lot of things that she's going through and she's, begins to have these flashbacks or as if they're talking to her, whatever. But would they repeat those narrative beats with Sydney when they've already had those, like with Melissa, it made sense. It totally made sense because of who she was to Billy's character. It doesn't quite make sense that Sydney, despite the fact that she's been through hell, that Sydney would have those same psychological Force ghost. I'm just saying that they're not, but you know what I mean? Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to it feels a little forced, no pun intended. So I don't think that would be it. I don't think they're going to utilize Stu in the same ways they utilized Billy, or utilize all three of them in the same ways they utilized Billy in 5 and 6. However, maybe she is. But at the same time, I don't rule it out completely, because maybe there is, because of some sort of guilt or grief or unfinished business. Maybe she's been having these, maybe we don't. I mean, that's easy to do. And in writing is to deliver a scenario and a situation where these things have always been happening. We just didn't know, right? We just weren't that just wasn't communicated to us in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. You know, she's always been having these dreams. She's always been having these regression dreams is what they would be called, right? When you have a dream about high school or when you have a dream about college, it is called a regression dream. And usually you have regression dreams because of some sort of unfinished business that you feel is unfinished, or there's some sort of connection to the past. You're longing for something. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can psychoanalyze it. And so it's possible that Nev could be, we now find out in Scream 7 that, oh, she's always been having these things. And maybe it's news to her husband, right? And it'll be news to us. Oh, shit. So now you go back and watch Scream 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you realize that even though they don't tell us that this and this, she is having those types of things. Or more so now than maybe then, because usually you only have regression dreams. They're called regression dreams because you've lived enough life where when you dream about that time, it is regressing. I mean, if you're dreaming about college and high school while you're in college and high school, that's not a regression dream. You're not regressing. That is current, right? That's of course, you know, there's lots of different reasons why that would be happening. But if you're having a regression dream and you're thinking, you know, about things in your past and trauma and all that kind of stuff and a certain time in your life when you're in your 40s or 50s, yeah, there's clearly something, there's something happening there, right? And so that could be something that they introduce. Now that I think more about it, that could be something that they introduce, and that would be the catalyst in a way to get Stu, flashback, not really alive, maybe we see, maybe we see scenarios with Stu and Billy that we've never seen before. We see them in 1996. We see them in 95 or 94. They do de-aging on them, and we see them as two buddies hanging out that we never, clearly they were best friends. Clearly they, Scream in 1996, that was the end of their journey. That was the end of their story. But clearly there was a story way before that, right? So what is that story, right? And maybe through some flashbacks, we see bits and pieces. Maybe through some, flashbacks, we see things like that. That I think there's a lot of fans that are leaning in towards that scenario, you know what I mean? More the flashback kind of situation, whether that's sort of kind of like trauma-based, regression-based, or just like there's the trauma and regression-based flashback through dreams, but then there's also a narrative flashback, which is just simply the movie just suddenly decides to illustrate something and show you something important through the use of a flashback, and which has nothing to do with her having dreams or anything like that. It's just they take, okay, we're going to take 2 minutes here and show you a flashback to 1995. It could be that too. And I think a lot of fans are tending to lean into more that kind of thing at the moment. Now, obviously, we don't know a lot of information when new information comes out. If it comes out before the movie comes out and the trailer, obviously that'll give us a better sense of what is going on. But if you were to ask me at face value, I am at the moment leaning more into the flashback side of things. But it is true. It is Kevin Williamson, and maybe he's figured out a really ingenious way to bring Stu back, to literally bring him back. He's not dead. He survived the television falling on his head. And he's figured out an ingenious way that feels properly motivated. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel contrived. At no point watching the movie are we all going to go, oh, come on, I guess. Okay. You know what I mean? Because you don't want that. You don't want that, right? And that's why I ask fans, like there's a lot of Scream fans that think this is wonderful. But at the end of the day, is it worth the risk? Maybe it is. Maybe it is with Kevin Williamson. Maybe it is. Because he's one of the guys that created the franchise, right? So maybe it is worth the risk for him. But the last thing you want, the last thing any Scream fan wants, because a lot of fans have been really pining for this, and the last thing you want is suddenly the movie to play out and all of a sudden you have your expectations through the stratosphere and it's nothing but a 30-second flashback. And you're going to be really disappointed. You're going to be really disappointed. And the thing is that you can't get mad at the filmmakers. You can't get mad at Scream 7. They didn't promise you shit. They just promised you that Stu was back. Well, he's back. Yeah, but it's a 30-second fucking flashback. Well, yeah, but they didn't say it wasn't going to be. You got yourself all riled up. And then you go to watch the movie and you realize it's 30 seconds. It's a flashback to 1995, and that's it. Or maybe it's a voiceover. Oh my God. I hope it's not a voiceover. I won't, we won't hear the end of it. No, I'm sure it's more than that. But so the point I'm making is that, try to temper your expectations. Try to just kind of think about it realistically. Try not to get too excited about this, because we really don't know how Kevin Williamson wants to use Stu. I just hope that whatever it is, that it is properly motivated. It makes sense, not just in I guess that makes sense. I mean, him surviving and coming back years later, I mean, you could make that make sense. But I mean something that Kevin Williamson went, ooh, maybe it's something that, or maybe he's just going to recycle the idea that he was going to use for Scream 3 and use it in Scream 7. And I mean, maybe it's just going to be as simple as that, right? Because the original idea for Scream 3 was that Stu had actually survived. So maybe he's just now, instead of having it happen, a few years later, he's now taking that, making some adjustments, and now it's going to happen, 30 years later, right? And so he's just going to tweak it a little bit to make it make more sense for 30 years as opposed to, was it 5 years, whatever it was. And maybe that's it. Maybe, we talking about this and dissecting it and getting the bulletin board out and the push pins with the red string and going, I think we could, we're probably overthinking it like we normally always do. And maybe it's just something as simple as that. It's like, no, I just took the Scream 3 idea and just kind of revamped it a little bit to make it fit this story, and that's all it is. And so he is really alive, and he's been away for a while, and he comes back, and hey, maybe that's it. Maybe it's not going to be some big reveal and some big parade. Maybe Stu will be all over the trailer, and I don't know, folks. I really don't know. There's a few different ways they could go about it. Personally, for me, I would have left him dead. That's just me. But I am very curious to see what they are going to do with the character, how they're going to utilize him, and whether or not he is going to be alive, or if we're going to see him through, a regression dream of some sort, or a flashback, or, I don't know. But folks, listen, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on what you think of this news that Matthew Lillard is coming back, that Scott Foley is coming back as well. I mean, listen, all we need now is Laurie Metcalf. I mean, if they announce that Laurie Metcalf is coming back, Billy Loomis's mother, how can you not think this is going to be like a bunch of Force ghosts all talking to Nev or something? You know what I mean? Or I don't know. Could you imagine? But we do know that, Skeet Ulrich, he's probably coming back. I'm hearing rumblings of that, apparently. Matthew Lillard is back, and Scott Foley is back. So, I don't know. What do you think, folks? What do you think? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Let's jump over to the chat room here and see what all you are saying, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know. Now is the time. If you want your question guaranteed to be read, you have to send in a super chat. I do read non-super chats, of course, but I can never guarantee that I will get to them because of time. So let's go over here and check it out. We've got Josh McKenna sends in a super chat. Thank you, Josh, and says, one of the legacy characters has to go. This is Gale Weathers signing off. Listen, I agree with you, Josh. I think Gale Weathers should die. Hey, I was actually all for Sydney dying in the opening of 5, but that didn't happen. Amadusia sends in a member chat. Thank you, Amadusia. Says, calling it now, Stu coming back for Scream 7 will be Scream's jumping the shark moment. Ooh, I hope not. I really hope not, but you may be right. Brandon Collins, thank you, Brandon, sends in a $5 super chat, says, Scream 6 touched on conspiracy theory. Maybe this time the killer is using AI videos of past killers and victims to manipulate conspiracy nuts. Ooh, that's true. Yeah, maybe there is an AI component to this, right? We don't know. Maybe there is an AI component. Ooh, maybe it's, I'm telling you right now, that would piss Scream fans off. He's not really back. It's just an AI version of him. It's not really him. It's just an AI version of him. Oh my God. It's an AI version of Roman. Oh my God. Maybe. Let's hope that Scream 7 is not Scream's resurrection. I don't know. Chase Jackson, what's going on? Chase sends in $9.99, says, hey, Dave, I would not be mad at the idea of a flashback scene as long as they add to the original in a positive way and not take away, similar to Halloween Kills. Ooh, so you're saying like, not just a flashback. I mean, you're talking about like a big segment of the movie. That's interesting too, because there's a flashback that maybe, happens in the middle of the movie when somebody's telling a story or something, right? And it's very clear that it's a flashback and it lasts, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I mean, that might be a bit long, but then there's what they did with Halloween Kills, where if you were just, it just looks like it's the movie. It doesn't look like a flashback. It doesn't play out like a flashback. You only know it's a flashback if you know the Halloween universe and the movies and all that kind of stuff. And so it's possible. I mean, I never thought of that. That would increase the budget, of course, because if you're going to do a flashback, depending on what it is, if you go back to 96 or 95, now it's a period piece, not a period piece in the sense of like it's, back in the 1800s, but I mean, it becomes, it's 30 years ago. So now, you got to think about, the cars and the signage and the clothing and the hair and the, all that kind of stuff. So depending on what it was, might be a bit tricky, but it's interesting. That's interesting. Maca5250 Outlaw Gaming sends in £1 and 99 pence and says it's just Shaggy and Scoob on another ghost hunt. Ruh-roh. All right, Scoob, let's do it. Josh McKenna sends in another $9.99. Thank you, Josh. And says, could you imagine if they randomly announced Drew Barrymore was coming back? Oh my God, Josh, that would be amazing. Could you imagine? That would be funny. That would be funny. What would people think? What would people think of that? Drew Barrymore is coming back. Drew Barrymore is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. I should start that rumor. Just send me your invoice, Josh. All right, let me see here. So I want to make sure I get these. Don't want to miss them. Zane Oren sends in $4.99. Thanks, buddy. Says, I bet the opening will be a flashback to Maureen's death. Ooh, that's Sydney's mother, right? Maybe you're right. But then the question then becomes for a lot of Scream fans, are you okay with that? There's going to be this big hoopla around Stu returning, or Matthew Lillard returning as Stu, but are you going to be okay with that? Scream fans, are you going to be okay if it's just a flashback to 1995 and all Matthew Lillard's role is a DH Stu in a flashback to 95 to maybe, Maureen's funeral, or would you be okay with that? Or be honest now, what you're really hoping for is Stu is back and he's been behind it all pulling the strings, and he gets out with scars on his face and he comes out of the shadows with a big reveal. Hello, Sydney. No. I can't help but feel that that's really what Scream fans want, and why so many Scream fans are excited, because they think he's back. Not just back, but back, right? There's back, like he's in the movie, and then there's back. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Be honest with me, fans. Be honest with me, Scream fans. What is it you really want? You know what I mean? No, I'd be okay if we just live like that. Would you? I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see. Brandon Haddonfield sends in $4.99. Thank you, buddy. He said they are pulling a new Nightmare. Ooh, I don't think they'd be doing that. But basically, what you're suggesting is that it's meta, because Scream's already a bit meta, right? And so what you're suggesting is that it's meta. So everybody's playing themselves in a, ooh, in a new Nightmare, in a Wes Craven's New Nightmare type of situation. You know, I have heard Scream fans over the years suggest that as I heard people suggesting that as a possibility for Scream 5. And then I heard it as a possibility for Scream 6. And so I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think that, funny enough, I think that would be a little too risky, a little too avant-garde. I don't think that's what they're going to do. But you never say never down the road. You never say never down the road, right? You never say never down the road. Frank Riker, what's going on? Frank the Tank Riker, host of Frankly Speaking and co-host of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast, has been a member for 17 months. Amazing. Thank you, Frank. Says, I'm so glad that you fans are clapping like seals waiting for a fish to be thrown by the trainer when Stu was announced. It's all in good fun here, folks. All in good fun. Frank likes to bust Scream's balls. He's not a big Scream fan. Face it, they are running out of ideas, but know that you'll accept anything. You know, I mean, there's a kernel, not just a kernel of truth. There is truth to that, right? I mean, there is the argument to be made. Listen, Melissa Barrera, there's that whole thing that surrounds her. Obviously, Jenna Ortega left the project. Now, some people speculate, and maybe there's truth to this. Also, two things can be true at the same time. That's one thing you have to remember, especially when it comes to the entertainment business. Two things can be true at the same time. And so is it possible that Jenna Ortega, to support her friend, backed out of doing any further Scream movies until that was, annulled and figured out? Yes, it's possible. What the official story is that she was too busy with, Beetlejuice 2 and or Wednesday, and could that be true as well? Yes, it could be. It could just be like, oh, great, I'll just say this, even though this might be the real reason, but this is totally true at the same time. So, obviously there's that whole situation there, right? Around Melissa and the big scenario there. And then, of course, there was the debacle with Scream 6 with Neve Campbell and not getting paid enough. And then they, backed the Brinks truck up to her door and said, ugh, and she said, okay. And she came back. And now they've got Courtney Cox on board. They've got, Scott Foley on board. They've got Matthew Lillard on board. I mean, is it possible they're making sure that Scream fans know this is like the Avengers of Scream? I mean, okay. I mean, maybe they're going to announce that David Arquette's coming back. I mean, what would that mean? See, if they announce, they have to be careful here, because if they do, hypothetically, announce more dead people returning to the Scream franchise, then that just says to me that that only helps to think that maybe this is just going to be a flashback of some sort. I mean, the more dead people you say are coming back, the more it makes me think that you're going to return to a different time to show them alive. So, I don't know, folks. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, no, Frank, I mean, you're right in the sense that, there's a lot of nostalgia around this. They know that, fans have been wanting this for a long time. And I just hope that it is. And listen, again, like Darren said to me, or said to us this afternoon, it's Kevin Williamson. He's a smart writer. We don't know how good of a director he is. He's only directed once in his life, and whether or not, we're not quite sure how this is going to roll out. But certainly he's a big part of creating this universe, huge part of creating this universe, the characters, the universe, the setting. I mean, the meta and the spoofiness and the irony and I mean, he's a big reason for its success. He knows the universe almost better than anyone. And so that's good from a writing perspective. I just hope that if it is more than a flashback, right, and it's not just a flashback, and it is more than a flashback, that it is properly motivated. You know what I mean? It makes sense. It's not just, oh yeah, okay, I guess so. I guess you could do that. It doesn't feel lazy. It doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel shoehorned in. It feels like, oh, this makes sense. Like this is, oh, fuck, it's bigger than I imagined, right? His return makes the universe and the questions and the stakes bigger. They make you realize there's so much you didn't know, right? It's not small and linear where it's just like, no, he just survived and he's been in jail and now he's released and he's still obsessed because he wants revenge. And it's like, okay, well, that works, right? I mean, it works. That totally works. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a little safe. But it works. It makes sense. It's plausible, right? But is it what you want? Or do you want something? There's a little bit of a hook. There's a hook. There's a, oh, shit. That would be fun. That would be nice. But even that, oh, shit, can't feel like, oh, shit, come on. It's got to feel right? It's got to feel, you know what I mean? It's fascinating stuff. Hardy1298 says, Scream with Nev was getting boring and repetitive. Announcing other characters will pique more interest. Well, listen, I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying there. I'm not the world's biggest Scream fan. I like it, but I'm just like a casual Scream fan. My favorite is the first movie, and I've seen all the others maybe twice, right? And so I would say that I did not miss Neve Campbell in Scream 5. Now, I know she was in 5, but I mean that I didn't miss her until when she returned, it wasn't like Halloween Ends, where ironically, I actually kind of liked the movie until Michael Myers showed up. And when Michael Myers showed up, the whole movie kind of tanked. Ironically, it wasn't like that. It was, she is Neve Campbell. She added to it. It was great to see her on screen. But I really did feel like her story was complete at the end of that movie. There was a passing of the torch. I've talked about this. At the end of the movie, they're sitting there, the ambulance is there, the police are there, the first responders are there. And, Sam says, I'm paraphrasing all this, but she says, am I going to be okay? I mean, she's just been through the ringer. She's never been through anything like this before. She's discovered more about her past and her father and who he was and how it relates to her. And what does that mean for her? Am I an evil person? Oh my God, what does this mean? Am I a terrible person because my dad was a terrible person? It's the same kind of thing that people face. Like I saw this great interview with Charles Manson's son. And, just being Charles Manson's son probably doesn't get you a lot in life, right? Even though you have nothing to do with it. Just because I'm his son doesn't mean that I'm a killer as well. But psychologically, it's hard for people to look past, right? And so, she was going through all that. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for my future? All these, it wasn't spelled out to you, but I'm saying these are things that are, through the cinematic language of the narrative. And when she turns to Sydney, who's just helped to save the day, the OG, the wise Obi-Wan comes back to help, the younglings, young Padawans, right? She turns to Sydney and says, am I going to be okay? And all Sydney says is, eventually. Eventually is that word is acknowledging that I know you're not okay right now. It's not, no, you're fine right now, bitch. No, that's not what she said. She said eventually, because she knows, having gone through it 30 years earlier, she knows that she's not okay right now. She's been through hell. She's lost her friends. Some of her friends have been killed. She's been through absolute hell and she's not okay. But girl, you're strong. You're brave. I'm proud of you. That's not what she's saying verbally, but that's the subtext, right? I'm proud of you. Eventually, you've got this. You've got this. You're strong, like me. You're strong. You've got this, right? And that's why I always felt like, that's great. I don't ever need to see Neve Campbell ever again. Not Neve Campbell ever again. Neve, if you're watching. Not you. Sydney, I don't ever, from a narrative perspective, I always look at this as a filmmaker, I look at this narratively, right? And I think to myself and I go, that's it. Her story's done. It's over. Now, could you continue it? Of course you can continue. You can always find ways to bring them back. You can always find ways to justify to bring them. But I'm okay. It's like the end of Rocky Balboa. I thought the end of Rocky Balboa was a great ending, right? A great ending for the character. There he was, standing at the gravesite of Adrian, you know, and he puts that, I think he puts the rose on the headstone and he says, "Yo, Adrian, we did it." Because he brought it full circle. That's what the movies were all about. It wasn't really about boxing. It could have been, you know, it could have been about hockey. It could have been about baseball. It could have been about sprinting or cycling. Stallone used boxing to tell the love story between Adrian and Rocky, and about not giving up and persevering and all that kind of stuff. But it was really about them. And so when Adrian was dead in Rocky Balboa, brilliant creative choice. Talia Shire was not crazy on it at first, but Stallone put his foot down. Was like, no, it's got it. Now she totally gets it and understands. And it was brilliant because that's life. You get older. You love and you lose, and to have him have lost the love of his life, what does that mean? Can I still do it? At the gravesite, his son, that great speech with his son, and all these things, and all, it's so emotional, it's so wonderful. And then that last shot is him saying, "Yo, Adrian, we did it." Yes, because that's what it's been all about through Drago and Tommy Gunn and Clubber Lang and all the sensationalism and whatever, all the noise. This is what it's always been about. It's always been about this. And that's why it's great to end it there and never do another one. Of course, they did Creed. Ryan Coogler did Creed, and I liked Creed. I thought it was pretty good. And then at the end of Creed 2, they had another ending, which was Rocky going home to his son. Okay. Hey, you know what? It's second best, but it's nowhere near the powerful, emotional statement and moment of Rocky at Adrian's headstone saying, "Yo, Adrian, we did it." And then he walks away and he turns to the camera and he goes like this, and then he just fades away, right? Just fades away. And that's it. That's powerful. And then, of course, a few years later, he's going home to his son. And it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's good. That's good, but it's not as good as the ending of Rocky Balboa. And so I kind of look at this and I go, not that the ending of Scream 5, folks, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying the ending of Scream 5 has the weight of the ending of Rocky Balboa. I'm just using that as an example to be like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I don't need any more. Narratively, it's over. It's done. Right? And I feel that she's done her duty. She came back. She didn't have to. She didn't need to. She came back. And that moment right there, am I going to be okay? Eventually. Just imagine when she says eventually, imagine a torch in her hand passing it to Melissa Barrera. And I think that really was what it was supposed to be. Now, Neve Campbell didn't come back in Scream 6 because of money issues, not because of narrative. They apparently didn't write her out. It was just a money thing. And I sit back and I think, but did she need to be in 6? Like, that's it. Am I going to be okay? Eventually. You got this, girl. Great. It's over. See you, Neve. It's done. We don't need to see Gail again. We don't need to see Neve again. Dewey's dead. It's over. And now take this and run with it. And I think that's what they wanted to do. Obviously, they continue to do that with Scream 6. They developed the characters more. And listen, I didn't miss Neve Campbell. I know the reason she wasn't in it, as far as we know, was not a narrative choice because her story's over. It was money, primarily, I think. But I didn't miss her. Did you miss her? I didn't miss her. And I'll tell you why. Even big Scream fans have said to me that they didn't miss her. And you want to know why you didn't miss her? You want to know why? Even if you don't realize this, because her story is done. Now, obviously, her story is not done. And we're going to find out more of that in Scream 7. But I'm just saying, the reason why you didn't miss her was because they did a really good job of building those characters up. And because her story is done. What else can we do with her? I mean, is she going to continue to come back and save Skeet's daughter? Is she going to continue to come back and save, or Skeet, Billy? I mean, does she have some sort of allegiance to these new kids? She doesn't. It's not her daughter, right? And so her story's done. Unless you bring back Matthew Lillard or you bring back something from her past, right? You have to bring back something from Neve's past in order to get, Sydney back in the game, because the other kids, it would be weird if Sydney kept showing up for their story. It's like, what are you doing? This is you Don't you remember? Eventually. You passed the torch. What are you doing here? Right? So obviously we know that, to keep Sidney Prescott's character invested, years later into fucking fighting Ghostface, you've got to think of something. It has to be properly motivated. What is the reason that she comes back? Well, I've often said that maybe you kill her husband. Maybe you kill one of her children. Oh, maybe one of her, maybe you kill her husband and, well, she got 2 kids, right? Or something like that. Maybe you kill one of her kids. Maybe one of her kids dies. Maybe one of her kids dies. I don't know. Maybe something like that. I don't know, man. Josh McKenna, $9.99, and says, I went to a movie without knowing the reviews. I saw a companion and I knew nothing about the plot. I walked in blind, liked it was the 80s and 90s, just showing, like it was in the 80s and 90s, just showing up at the theater with no clue. Did you like it? I hear really good things about it. I hear some really good things about it. Jay Edwards says, by the way, again, whenever Scream decides to wrap up this franchise with the final movie, I say bring Hank Loomis back as the mastermind of it all, at least with the movies. I think they should bring Roger Jackson in. Just bring Roger Jackson in. He's been the mastermind behind it all. So you realize that, oh my God, all those ghost faces I was talking to on the telephone were not actually, Billy and Stu. It wasn't actually Roman. It wasn't actually Billy Loomis's mother. It actually was somebody physical, in like a Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, the cartoon, not the movie. Gadget. It's somebody in some ivory tower somewhere. Well, not an ivory tower, but some slummy headquarters somewhere pulling the shots. Could you imagine if Roger Jackson stepped out of the shadows? Hello, Sidney. Oh my God. I don't know what that would mean. But funny stuff, folks. Funny stuff indeed. Indeed, I should say. Have I missed any super chats? I want to make sure I have not missed anything. Let me just make sure here. I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have. I think the last one was Josh McKenna. Okay, Josh. Thank you. By the way, folks, if you want to become a member here on the channel for exclusive member content, just hit that join button. I have 2 tiers. That'll get you your name highlighted in the chat there with emojis or with a badge beside your name, a different badge every month that you are a member. You also have access to exclusive emojis as well as member-only Q&As. If you become a part of level number 2, you get all of that in level number 1, as well as horror movie nights, which is where I watch a horror movie. It's just a watch along. We all watch a classic horror movie. Tomorrow night, I'm watching You're Not Alone, one of Tom Hanks's first horror movies from 1980. We're watching that tomorrow night on Horror Movie Nights. That's part of level number 2. There's also a Halloween only show, which we haven't done one in a couple of months. We got to do one. It's just the Halloween news has been so, few and far between. But you get access to a Halloween only show as well. And there's quite a few episodes already on the channel that you can backtrack and check out. So feel free if you're interested in that, hit that join button and become a member here on the channel. And you also get to ask member only questions. So your question will be highlighted in green, and therefore you're guaranteed to have your question answered. Let me see here. BDDD. Hardy1298 says, people won't be happy no matter how it goes. We got to be honest. Well, it's true. That's the world of fandom, ladies and gentlemen. That is the world of fandom. Nathaniel Fincher says, Dave, what's the first scary movie you recall seeing in the theater when you were a kid? I don't know. Maybe Gremlins? You call that scary? I'm not sure. I saw Gremlins at the drive-in when it came out in 1984. And as a 5-year-old in 1984, that would have been, it wasn't like scary, but, it was kind of like a spooky movie, these creatures. I don't know, though. I'd have to think. I have to think back. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to think back. Excuse Excuse me. Good 7, though. Good 7. Good question, though. Let me see here. Brandon Collins says, Stallone deserved an Oscar nomination for Rocky Balboa more than he did for Creed. I can agree with that. Although I thought he was terrific. I thought he was terrific in Rocky Balboa, in Rocky Balboa more than he did Creed. I agree with that. Sorry, for some reason I thought you said the first, or meant the first Rocky. Yes, I agree. I thought he was terrific in that film. I thought it was great. Gold Standard says Scream 7 will be trash. That's all Gold Standard has to say. Scream 7 will be trash. Gold Standard, do you have anything else to add? Do you have anything else to say? Why will it be trash? Think hard now and tell us why it will be trash. You can do it. I believe in you. Let me see here. Jay Edwards says, still waiting for them to bring Hank Loomis back. They might. Brandon Hadfield, $4.99. Thanks, Brandon. Says, Frank Riker is GF and has been in love, jealous and obsessed with Scream the whole time. I knew it. It's true. Secretly, Frank makes love actually to the Scream Blu-ray box. Just kidding, Frank. Just kidding. No, Frank doesn't like Scream at all. He's not a fan, folks. He's not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Robert Kitzmiller says, what if Roger Jackson shows us a Palpatine figure? Or shows up as a Palpatine figure? Good. I can feel your anger. Could you imagine? Somehow Stu returned. I posted that meme today that somehow Stu returned. I don't know how. You don't know how. But somehow Stu returned, ladies and gentlemen. Somehow Stu returned. Let me see here. Let me scroll back and see if I can get more Scream stuff. See what people are talking about. Scream. But what do you think, folks? Tell me your thoughts. Tell me, how do you think Stu is going to come back? Let me know your thoughts. I want to know. What do you think? What do you think? You know, it's funny. I did a poll on my channel not long ago, within the last year. And the poll was something to the effect of, what franchise do you like more or whatever, right? Halloween, Elm Street, Friday, Scream, all this kind of stuff. Obviously, Halloween won. But Friday and Elm Street were ahead of Scream. Scream was last, I think. And it's weird because if I talk about Elm Street and Friday on the channel, I get a good showing, maybe 100 people. But if I talk about Scream, 150 people show up. And I'm like, that doesn't really align with the poll, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Of course, if I talk about Halloween, there's like 9 million people in here. Andrew Stevens, what's going on? Andrew says, hey, they are doing whatever they can for making up losing Jenna and Melissa. They are pulling all the stops on this one. For all the Scream fans, I hope your dreams are fulfilled. Well, that's, there's a very important moment or point that you make there, Andrew, which is, I hope that all your dreams are fulfilled, right? I don't have, again, I like Scream, but it's not like Halloween, right? And so I couldn't care less really what happens. I like talking about it because it's fun and I like seeing it from a, interest point of view. I don't want the movie to fail. I never want any movie to fail. I'm not one of those people. I'm just not one of those people. So I'm rooting for it to succeed. I'd love it to be great. But for you real diehards out there, real diehards, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the risk? Right? That's what it comes down to. Is it worth the risk? And, because all it's going to take is, like I said, if you're somebody that wants Stu to come back, or even if you don't think it, you're like, no, I'd be okay with a flashback. And maybe you've convinced yourself that you would be okay with a flashback. No, I'd be okay. But really deep down in your heart, even like you don't realize this because it's subconscious. You're kind of hoping that it's a big part. It's Stu, the nostalgia, the feelings, the nostalgic feelings, the warm fuzzies. Stu back, seeing him on screen again, going, "Hey, Cindy, what's going on? Yeah, I'll be right back." You have all this nostalgia, right? Well, what happens if it's a 35-second flashback to 1995 and he's a de-aged Stu, and that's it? Are you going to be okay? Be honest. Be honest with me. Like, be honest with me. Are you going to be okay with that? He's back. As I said earlier in the show, you can't get mad at the filmmakers. You can't get mad at the studio. You go, "Oh, come on." No, he was back. He was back. They said he was back, and he was back. You came up with some wild scenario in your head that just didn't come true. Be honest with me, Scream fans. Are you going to be okay with that? Would you be okay with that? Or would you be okay? You don't care how he's back, he's just back. Because something tells me, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misreading the room. Not the room here, I mean, the Scream ether. Maybe I'm misreading the Scream ether, but I can't help but feel that even those that say, no, I'd be okay with that, really deep down inside, if that really is all it is, really all it is, which I'll be honest with you, I think it's probably more than that because of the way they announced it and all that kind of stuff. But what if it isn't? Are you going to be okay? Or are you going to get your knickers in a twist and you're going to huff and puff and yell and scream and take to social media going, "This is trash. This is trash. This is dog shit. I'm screwed into some dumb flashback." Well, I don't know. Imagine this, right? Like, let's think of this, for example. Imagine before Scream 5 came out. Try to put yourself in this kind of a scenario. Before Scream 5 came out, a similar situation arose. And that situation was that Skeet Ulrich, Rick, hard C, soft C, can't remember. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Skeet, you know who you are, is coming back. They made an announcement. And in your head, you're thinking, but he was shot in the head. How's that possible? Would you have been okay with how they brought him back? Or would you have been like, "Oh, that's kind of, I don't know." You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. Obviously it's a little bit of a different scenario because obviously we saw him shot in the head. But that's why I don't know. I just can't help but feel, here we go. We got Hardy1298 says, "No, I wouldn't be okay with the flashback." Yes. Thank you for being honest. This is great. Be honest with me. Scream fans, tell me what you want. Tell me this. I want to hear from you. This isn't, I'm not just sitting here on my ass, just, talking to myself. I kind of am. But tell me, what do you want? Hardy has stepped up to the, Hardy? Oh, did I get that right? Hardy? No, not Hardy. Hardy? Hardy, yeah. Hardy1298. No, I wouldn't be okay with a flashback. No. I fucking want him back. I want him there. Yeah, he's back, baby. What about a dream sequence? I think Kevin Williamson is too smart of a writer to make it a dream sequence. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think it's going to be a dream, like a flashback dream sequence, right? Because there's a flashback told through the narrative, and then there's a flashback in a dream, right? Like somebody's gone to bed and they have a dream and it's a flash, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think that even for Kevin Williamson, I think that might be, a little too lazy perhaps. But I'm not ruling out a flashback. I'm not going to rule it out. I think Kevin Williamson, he's a smart writer. He's a smart writer. He's going to do something, but I wouldn't rule it out. Ryan Underwood says maybe Stu will get the little spermy fish demons from Nightmare on Elm Street and he'll come back as a goofy demon Stu. Maybe he will. Alex Shambach says, "Dave, sorry if you already mentioned it, but do you see a new Nightmare scenario with Scream 7? Somebody had mentioned earlier, I don't see that. No, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think we would know about it. I think we would know about it by now, if that's what they were going to do. Yeah. Because I don't think they would. I just feel like that would be too risky to spring on an audience unannounced. I'm not saying you can't do that with a Scream. Yeah, you could, because it would be meta, right? And it might be kind of fun. But I don't see them doing that for Scream 7. And I think we would know that going in. So I don't think they're doing that. You never know, though. You never know. I stand to be corrected. Just going back, making sure I haven't missed any super chats. I have not. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, there you guys are. All right. The Hobbit Dojo says, I'd rather have him actually back. Yeah, I think most of you Scream fans would, if you're being honest, right? The only flashback I'd like is showing Maureen Prescott's death as the opening kill. Okay, but would you be okay if that was the only time you see Stu and Matthew Lillard as Stu, right? So would you be okay if it was just that? So it's a flashback. So you're not getting, so you don't want a flashback, but you're kind of, it's a compromise, right? We're going to have a flashback, which I know you don't want, but the flashback is going to be Maureen's death, which I know you do want. So can we compromise and settle in the middle? And are you going to be okay with that? Would you be okay with that? I don't know. Oliver Mercer says, I reckon Stu will return by a dream sequence and actually being there by the end somehow. Hot take, folks. Hot take. Frank Riker, $5. Thanks, Frank. Says, Dave just got off the phone with Kevin Williamson and he had said Stu is back in a Weekend at Bernie's setup. Yes! That's a scenario we didn't talk about, ladies and gentlemen. That's a scenario we didn't talk about. Would you be okay with a Weekend at Bernie's scenario with Stu Macker being back and they've got to hold him up? They've got to hold him up and he's walking around. And he's walking around, his head's down, and he's bobbing like this, and he's like this, and he's a marionette, and he's smiling, and they got him like this. And would you be okay with that? I don't know. Maybe. That'd really be funny. PJ says, reeks of desperation and grasping at straws. You know, that was the point I was making earlier, is that if it's not some really cool, ingenious way that makes absolute perfect sense, listen, perfect sense in the sense of it makes us go, oh, wow, that's a really cool way. Oh, that's cool. Smart. That's smart. It tells you that Kevin thought about this. He knew, he just didn't want to make it cookie cutter. Hey, he survived the television. He's been in prison. Nobody knew that. He's out on parole. He's come back to, for his, revenge. Well, that works, right? Like I said earlier in the show, that totally works. Narratively, it works. It makes sense. Okay. But is that going to be enough? Is that what you want? Or do you want some different way? And I don't mean flashback, but I mean something. There's something, and I don't know what that would be. I don't pretend to know what that would be, but there's something else that it's not just cookie cutter like that. It's a little less pedestrian. But then at the same time, how many different avenues can you go? When you think, like, how many different scenarios could there be? I mean, okay, the television was dropped on his head. I mean, first responders are going to come in. They're going to assess that. They're going to remove the television from his head. They're going to find out that he's still alive, barely alive. Maybe he has a pulse, but barely. Maybe he was in a coma for, I don't know, so many years. Maybe they could do he's been in a coma for 30 years route. I don't know. But I just mean, him coming back and not a flashback back, but like actually back today, living alive, seeking his revenge. There's got to be some sort of scenario where he's been locked up, or in a coma, or like there has to be some variation of that. Otherwise, he didn't just get up from the television and walk away like Michael Myers and nobody's ever seen him again. I mean, so there's got to be something, some sort of scenario around being locked up, being protected. Nobody knew about it. Or maybe he was in a coma in the hospital. He was in a psychiatric ward, and maybe parole's coming up and he's got to escape. Like, there's going to be some variation of that. Something like that, you would think, right? Because what else makes sense? And I'm okay with that because, it's grounded, it makes sense. But beyond that, I really hope there's a little more to it. There's some smart writing involved. There's moments where we go, oh, surprise us, right? Maybe some twists and turns. And like I said at the top of the show, and like I said, I've been saying for a long time now, folks, ladies and gentlemen, end a Scream movie on a bloody cliffhanger. End it on a cliffhanger. Not on a cliffhanger where we go, oh, come on. I don't mean that, but something where it's like leading to that moment where you're like, wait a minute, there's only 10 minutes left in the movie and we don't have the Scooby-Doo moment yet. The killer hasn't been revealed. The mask hasn't come off. They haven't taken 5 minutes to tell us why they're so evil. What's going on here? I don't think we're going to, my God, the credits are going to, my God, the hell's going to happen here? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a cliffhanger. That'd be amazing. That'd be really cool. I think it would be really cool could you imagine if they didn't tell us that Stu was coming back? Maybe he wasn't coming back for Scream 7 and they tease him at the end of Scream 7. Maybe they tease that he's the killer. Oh, there's something about maybe his hands or something Ghostface says, something. And then you're just looking at him. Nev Campbell's lying on the ground, bloodied, beaten. Ghostface is standing over and he says some line that you're like, oh, wait, no, wait, cut to black. Oh! And then you're like, is that? Oh, no. But nobody's saying shit. Nobody's saying it was him. Nobody's saying anything. It's just like, oh my God. Could that really, could you imagine something like that? Like that would be really cool too. That would get Scream fans jazzed up, riled up, something going on, like holy snap and crap. Oh my God. That would be really freaking cool, man. That'd be really awesome. That'd be really awesome. But we're not getting that. Wicker Stick Cinema says, Dave, my thoughts are that Stu will be back with Billy and de-aged, as the opening kill will be a flashback to Maureen Prescott's death. You could be right. I mean, that seems to be a common one for sure. Ran Agbayani. My apologies if I'm butchering your last name. Says, well, in Scream 3, Sydney did have those dreams about her dead mother. That's true. I mean, I think that seems to be a common theory. Robert Kitzmiller says, yes, but did Sydney know he was alive? Because how would she have not? Well, that's one of the things, right? Like, that's one of the scenarios where unless she has known, I mean, maybe Kevin Williamson has just leaned into it. But then if Sydney has known, you think Gail would have known. You think the world would have known, right? It doesn't quite make sense, at least on surface level, that Sydney would not know, or that Sydney would know, but she's kept it a secret. And then you got to say, well, why? Why did she keep it a secret? Well, okay, to protect her family. Okay. She moved away. Okay. And I mean, they're going to figure it out, but I'm not totally convinced, that, yeah, it's because, to your point, if he is alive, that's going to be all over the news that one of the murderers survived and that he's been convicted and now he's in prison, and it's going to be on the news. I mean, everybody's going to know about that. So why didn't we know about that as an audience? But maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe that's not what's happening. And so, yeah, I think we should, especially for Scream fans, to temper your expectations, not to get them, not to get too crazy. And because, you never know. You never know. Okay, I've got all the super chats, right? I just want to make sure. Let me go back over here. I want to make sure. I believe I have the last one. Was Frank. Okay, yes, good. Because sometimes when I get yapping and I'm not looking at the monitor, I tend to, I can miss one. Richie M32 says, I think the next one should be Scream in Space with the same tagline as Alien. In space, no one can hear you scream. Ooh, of course, they probably couldn't do that. They could probably say something like, in space, no one can hear you, ... Well, you know. They could do something like that, maybe. Really play into the spoofness of it. I don't know. Let me see here. Scroll back. Let me go right back here. Let me see. Kenny Pham says, I would be surprised if Sidney Prescott isn't in a mental hospital already, going through hell for 5 movies already. Yeah, well, you could say that about every Final Girl, right? That seems to, go through a lot. I mean, if any of us actually went through even just one movie that most of these, characters go through, we'd all be in a mental asylum. I mean, the PTSD and the trauma and and some of these characters go through it movie after movie after movie. But hey, that's what makes it a movie, right? That's what makes it a movie. Dean Renner says, if they bring all these people back, that would point to one big flashback scene to me explaining unknown things from the past for the audience. Yeah, and it's true. I mean, and right now, there is evidence to suggest that it could be a flashback. And because you have Roman coming back as well. Right. So, and we know that, if Roman had died if his death was a little uncertain, right? Maybe he fell off a cliff and we didn't see, I never found his body. We didn't see his body. Right. Then it's like, oh, maybe there's something here. But Roman was shot in the head. He's dead. So Roman coming back tells me that, yeah, it's probably for a flashback of some sort. And maybe that's with Matthew as well. And he figured, you know what? I'm going to get Matthew. And so I want Scream fans, temper your expectations, because it may just be what some diehards here in the chat have said. It may just be a situation or a scenario where, it's simply just a flashback. And we need to get Billy and Stu and Roman together. So that's what I'm doing. Now, maybe it's a significant flashback. It's not 30 seconds. Maybe it is like Halloween Kills. Like as some people have suggested here, maybe it's like the beginning of the movie. Maybe it's the first 10 minutes of the movie. That might be kind of cool. And I think people might be okay with that. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a feeling some Scream fans would be okay with that. If it was a well thought out, flashback that had some meat on it. It served the story, serves the narrative, makes sense. And there's some meat on it, right? There's some teeth to it. Okay, Stu's not actually back. He is actually dead. He's back here. They've de-aged him. But this is a really cool flashback. And this is pretty cool. Like it's really well done. They've done a really good job. It only adds, doesn't take away. And if that's all I'm able to get, okay, cool. But it's cool. I mean, there'll be some people that don't like it, obviously, and would be pissed off about it. But I think some people would be okay. I think fans would be okay with that. All right, 5 more minutes, folks. 5 more minutes, and then I will call it a weekend. Machete Slasher says, a Halloween Kill style flashback showing Roman hiring Stu and Billy to kill Maureen makes sense to me. But why put this in the film is the question, unless one of those characters had a bigger role in the film. I don't know. You Scream heads, would know better than me. I don't know. It's a very good question. Very good question. Dalton Barron says, I seen a post on Facebook, but it might have been fake. It has Emma Roberts from part 4 in between the two. Probably fake. Probably fake. Folks, there's so many Facebook posts and pages that will just create fan art and put it out there. If it's not coming from Variety or Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter or Bloody Disgusting, or Screen Rant or Collider, please, that's not to say that some of these, Scooby-Dooby-Doo slasher.com don't, once in a while get something right. But please, please remember to take everything with a grain of salt. If it's some random horror Facebook page that you just happen to be a part of called I Heart Slashers, you know what I mean? Just take it with a grain of salt, kind of go, oh, it's and wait for some sort of more official announcement from one of the trades. So it's just, yeah, it'll serve you. It'll be good for your stress levels. Robert Kitzmiller, $5. Thanks, Robert. Says, what if the ghost face reveal is Jason Blum? Because, meta. But Jason Blum has nothing to do with Scream. He's not a part of Scream. Blumhouse does not produce the Scream movies. It is Spyglass and Paramount. Unless you mean to insinuate, has Jason Blum ever said that he wanted to acquire the rights to Scream? I'm not entirely sure. Meta, sure, in the sense that it's a horror producer, but Jason Blum has nothing to do with the Scream movies. So that wouldn't really, it would make more sense like if they did Insidious that way. They did a Meta Insidious and Jason Blum showed up because they produce the Insidious films. But Scream, I don't think is, no, they're not Blumhouse. They're Spyglass and Paramount. But I get what you're saying. Hey, you know what? Why don't you just fuck things up anyway and have them show up anyway? And just screw with people. They're like, what else is Jason Blum doing here? I don't know. Just have him show up. I don't know. Why not? Why not? Just have him show up for no particular reason at all. No particular reason at all, ladies and gentlemen. No particular reason at all. Brandon Collins says, I think we should all send a Ghostface standee to Frank's house. Oh my God. Frank would gladly post a video of him lighting it on fire and running it over. Frosted Moon Tip says, the fact that some people take what they see from unofficial Facebook groups as gospel is so sad and yet so funny at the same time. Yeah, it really comes down to, really at the end of the day, it comes down to, it could be it's a number of things. It could be an age thing, right? If you grew up in the digital age and you're on the younger side, if you're in your late teens, early 20s, I say this with all due respect, but it's very easy to pull the wool over your eyes because you're inundated, because of where you are in life and, your critical thinking skills, and you may not be privy to how the business works and how information works in terms of show business and all that kind of stuff. And so it can be very easy to fool somebody who's on the younger side. It's also easy to fool somebody who's on the older side too. I'm just saying that can play a part of it, or a part in it. And then there's the average fan. Most movie fans have absolutely no idea how the movie industry works. No idea. They're not filmmakers. They couldn't tell you how box office works. They couldn't tell you how to make a movie. They couldn't tell you. Most people have absolutely, unequivocally, no idea how difficult and how insanely technical and, difficult it is, and all the wheels that have to be turning and all the people and the departments and the business and money, and they don't know how it works. They don't know how it works. So most people, the average person who's, a T-ball dad who works a hard 9-to-5 job, supporting his family, likes movies, decides to join he likes horror movies, so he decides to join a movie page, and it's got a lot of people on the movie page, and this movie page decides to show a fun poster saying that Freddy Krueger's coming back in a Rob Zombie's HBO Max fucking series. We've seen that. The average T-ball dad just going to go, holy shit. Look, hey, Bob, did you hear there's going to be, because they're not in it. They're not, do you know, that's most people. That might not be you, but that's most people, right? Most people are not living this. Most people don't work in the film industry. And if you don't work in the film industry, most people are not obsessed with it and learning all about it. That's why, I've said, I've worked in the entertainment business for 23 years, and I've often said to people, do your due diligence to learn about show business, about the business of show business, the business of the entertainment industry, and, wherever, your fascination lies. If it's voiceover, learn about it. If it's filmmaking, learn about it. Learn about the business, because there are so many things that will, like, Matthew Lillard has been a part of this project for a long time. It's just now he's been able to reveal that he's, a part of it, right? It wasn't like he just signed, okay, now I can do it. And so there's a lot of things that will come down the pipe, a lot of things, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of language that the studios will say and use, that the trades will say, a lot of innuendos, a lot of discussions and things like that. And the more that you know about show business and how movies work and how movies are made and how show business works, the more that you're able to critical think and weed through the noise to find the signal. There's a lot of noise, right? And, if you know what to look for, then when you see something come down the pipe that might seem like it's, like I've had people today reach out to me and say that Skeet Ulrich has been confirmed that he's coming back. And so I did a Google search. It hasn't been confirmed. Now, maybe as I'm like right now it has, I'm not sure. But before I went live, it wasn't confirmed. It was some, a comic book site that said, we're hearing this, whatever, but Deadline hasn't reported, Hollywood Reporter hasn't reported, Bloody Disgusting hasn't reported, Collider hasn't reported it, Screen Rant hasn't reported, Variety hasn't reported it. It's not official, right? It's just somebody's hearing something, and I think this is going to be something, but the language you use is really important. It's official, he's back. No, it's not official. It might be. It kind of makes sense that he probably will be. So it's a good guess, even if they're bullshitting, but it's not official yet, right? Again, it could be at this very moment. I'm not 100% sure. But so it's important that we continue to critical think, look at the source, who's relaying this message. Is it, iloveslashers.com, which is like, that's a cool name, but who are they? Look at how many people, I don't even know if they're around anymore, but you remember We Got This Covered? And I used to always say, if there's one thing that We Got This Covered has, is hardly anything covered. And which is ironic. They used to get shit wrong all the time. Oh my God. And people used to take it as the gospel. I don't know how many times I had to filter messages from links from We Got This Covered, and I had to type back saying, I'm sorry, it's just not, they don't got shit covered. So I don't know if they're around. I haven't heard of them in a long time. Maybe they're gone now. I don't know. Or maybe they are around, but they're so buried because, the reputation is dog shit. I don't know. I don't mean that, again, don't misunderstand me. I don't mean you got to go to film school. Hey, if you do, great. But I don't mean you got to have a PhD in this shit. I just mean that, do a bit of reading. Learn about how the business works, about how contracts work, right? About how box office works, about how the studios work, about the difference between a studio and a production company. There's a lot of people that don't even know that. Blumhouse isn't a studio. They're a production company, right? Well, what is a production company? What does it do, right? What does it do? What do they do? What are their jobs? Learn about it. Right? Just learn as much as you can, because the more armed you are with information about how the business works, the easier it will be for you to be able to know how to read information, right? How to read information that comes in about your favorite movies or about your favorite rumors or about your favorite this, that, and the other, right? And so that's important. But yeah, if you're just an average person that isn't thinking about movies and, day to day, and you're just a hardworking, middle class person who likes to put food on the table, and all of a sudden, whoop, you're like, oh, fuck, holy shit, Jesus Christ, did you know that Harrison Ford is in Scream 7? Like, I don't know, and it's like, yeah, but it's coming from 321carebears.com. I mean, and you're just like, well, I think we gotta, so just keep that in mind, folks. Keep that in mind. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me here on this episode of McRae Live. I want to thank, of course, my moderators. Thank you for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the super chats that came in. Really appreciate you supporting the channel on that level. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for everybody else for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here today, of course, but specifically Stu Macker's return, Matthew Lillard's return for Scream 7. What do you think it means? How do you think the character is going to be utilized? Is he back? Is he alive? Or is he not? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to do it for me. If you want to follow me on social media, all my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your Friday night, folks. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you all soon. Alrighty. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.